In this video, we're going to talk about some important questions that often come up. How do we use the maturity curve and the population sizing? How accurate is it? Does it or does it not take market sales data and market performance data into account, and so on? And again, this is recording number 4 in the series. So if you've landed here and you have no context, I would really urge you to watch the first 3 videos, because it will really set the stage for you so that it gives you the context and the necessary knowledge before you can dive into this video. So first and foremost, when we measure maturity, what we're measuring is consensus. And the reason we measure this is because, and this comes out of the field of structural anthropology, as I've explained before, and the model is very simple. When ideas in culture are well understood, the meanings around them basically start to look like synonyms. When ideas in culture are not well understood, the meanings around them will look very diverse. That's the basic idea of it. All we've done is taken that idea from structural anthropology and built a measurement on top of that, so we can actually measure maturity from 0 to 100. And through that measurement and through benchmarking the application of this measurement into our clients' work, we now know some things that benefit our clients significantly in a multitude of ways. The first thing we now know is that there is a minimum amount of consensus required for something to become relevant to the mainstream, i.e. for it to take a life of its own. And that is about 33% on our maturity curve. So when 33% of the population that you're looking at, so in this case, you're looking at a population of 25 million approximately, and when it crosses 33% of that, within that community, within that culture, the notion of social justice and gut health, whatever the meanings are around it, it's going to take on a life of its own. It's going to attain mainstream relevancy. When something is before mainstream relevancy in early consensus, it means consensus is starting to build. However, it is still likely to get disrupted. And because consensus is not fully in mainstream zone or the zone of innovation, you can affect the meanings more openly. You can shape them to suit you more openly. And as something becomes more and more mature, the opportunity for you to shape the narrative, shape the meanings, become less and less and become more difficult, so to speak. And the idea is very simple, right? When something is an early consensus, it means somebody's ideas are starting to be formed. You can use the analogy of, somebody in their teenage years versus, let's say, in their 20s and their 30s in mainstream acceptance, and much later in life in established ideas. And if you use that analogy, it's very simple. You might still be able to mold a teenager to think of the world differently. But once that person reaches their late 20s, their value systems, their belief systems are so hard set that change is smaller, it's more nuanced, and it takes longer to make. And especially once people come into their 40s, especially their 50s, their value systems, belief systems are so established, being able to change their minds is extremely difficult. So you can kind of use that analogy here as well. The same thing applies, right? As something becomes more and more mature, it becomes harder for you to shape that narrative and affect it in a way that can help you in whatever it is that you're building. Now, the cool thing about our maturity and population sizing is it is based on words and meaning that is given to a topic, right? So in this case, the search we're running, and I'm going to simplify the search here. I'm just going to take out social justice, just run the search on gut health. In this case, just in the context of gut health, what the machine's doing is analyzing the meanings around gut health. And in this particular case, there are, by the way, 50,736 meanings, right? There's 50,000 plus planets revolving around the sun of gut health. It's analyzing that. It's going back 4+ years and looking at the movement of these planets. I know I'm butchering physics here, but it's important. It's looking at the movement of these planets. It's determining whether these planets are slowly converging towards one another, whether they're converging towards consensus. And if they are, then it'll run thousands of regressions to then arrive at a calculation of the rate of conversion, which is what it's giving us, how much change, in what time frame, and all of that. Now, this prediction is critical because not only does it look beyond market data, as in because it does not contain market data, it allows us to look beyond shiny object syndrome. Classic examples. Everybody was freaking out about plant proteins a couple of years ago. We were the only ones telling all our clients, yes, there's growth, but it's 7 to 8% a year. It's not 200%. Yes, there's growth, but there's some important questions and concerns coming up, in particular around nutrition and nutritional deficiencies as it pertains to plant proteins, in particular around the processing of ingredients as it pertains to plants. All of this stuff now is well known. 2 years ago, a lot of people were throwing us out of their boardrooms because we were the only ones. We were going up against all the big management consultancies, speaking a language that was kind of scary to people because everybody likes to hear big growth numbers, and everybody likes the idea that one small decision is going to make them all this money. But the reality was a lot more complex than it was made out to be. But again, looking at meaning allowed us to get past the sales mayhem, the marketplace shiny object syndrome. The same thing, by the way, happened through the first year of the COVID era as well. Everybody was so distracted with whatever was happening in terms of sales data out in the market. We were the only ones looking at meaning and reminding our clients that once we come out the other end of the pandemic, things will settle back. In some cases, go in the negative direction, in other cases go in the positive direction, because we're studying meaning. We're not looking at what's happening today in the market. We're looking at how meaning has been and continues to change over time, because meaning changes before a marketplace behavior is established. Meaning precedes markets, right? Culture precedes markets. Meaning precedes markets. Always, hands down. Why? Very simple. If something doesn't have meaning, nobody will buy it. We don't buy anything, even a pencil we do not buy without it having some amount of meaning and association in our lives. When meanings change, purchase decisions change. Meaning precedes markets. That is why studying meaning is so important, because it gives us a view towards the future in a way that nothing else can. The other cool thing is, because we're a technology-based company, we can actually calculate the accuracy of our own predictions. We can look at past data, run predictions, compare it to current data. We know the accuracy of our results. Our results come with an 80.4% accuracy rate with a 10% margin of error. Basically means that there's an 80% chance that this prediction will come true. In the end, it may end up being 21.5 or 23.2, but there's more than an 80% chance that this prediction will come true in the next 5+ years. We also benchmark our own accuracy. And I would say, given that we're predicting culture and we have no control over what the next pandemic is going to be, or who's going to be elected next, or what the next crazy meme will be in culture, this is pretty good. And it's pretty powerful because it has driven more than $5 billion in new revenue for a lot of our clients. So I wanted to spend a couple of minutes just to articulate this to you, because this is so critical. Because studying maturity through the lens of meaning helps us understand whether something is truly maturing in people's minds, and then apply that to market data, to whatever might be going on in the marketplace. So that's maturity. The second number is population. That's much easier. Population is very simple. We're just looking at and extrapolating the number of users that are touching a particular topic in the broader context over the course of 1 year. So this is basically 33.5 million people have come into contact with the broader context of discussions around gut health over the course of 1 year. So that's basically telling us the maximum size of the pie, because it looks at the broader context. So it's basically telling us that the maximum size of the pie is maybe smaller than one might think, maybe larger than you might think, but that again is an extensive number, because it helps us prioritize and in particular organize the different strategies and implementations that we might be considering for our businesses.